As much as the Liberal Party and the legacy media have been trying to pretend that Pierre Poilievre's rally sizes don't indicate anything significant about the direction of the Canadian election, obviously they know it's significant. How do I know that the Liberals and the legacy media know it's significant? Well, now Mark Carney and the Liberals are trying to recreate Pierre Poilievre style rallies. The problem is that Mark Carney is not Pierre Poilievre. In fact, I'm not really sure if Mark Carney's even a real boy. Maybe he'll become one day. But for now, because he lacks charisma and the ability to project realness, his rallies are a fraction of the size of what Pierre Poilievre is putting on. And I got to give him props. Carney took a big swing and he actually was able to get out maybe 1,500 to 2,000 people yesterday in Richmond. And, that's about 3 or 4 times bigger than what his normal rallies are. But when you put it up against what Poilievre was able to do in Edmonton, it is absolutely pathetic by comparison. Again, Carney's rally is big for a Canadian political rally, but based on what I heard from people who were in attendance yesterday, just checking it out, they really tried hard to bring people into that rally to make it as big as possible. And they were able to do 1,500 to 2,000. Poilievre was able to do what people are saying is 15,000. I think it's more like 10,000. That is insane. That he is like quintupled what Mark Carney did. And I don't even think Poilievre's exactly trying that hard. Yeah, they want a lot of people to show up. But at the same time, they do rallies so often. I think they're just having to announce dates, tell people to show up, and that's it. Where at Carney's rally, it sounded like they were really telling people, like, you gotta show up. Just drive in from Surrey, just drive in from New Westminster, drive in from Abbotsford. We just need warm bodies in the room. And yeah, that's good for Carney, but this is great for Pierre Poilievre. 10,000 people, maybe 11,000, all singing the Canadian national anthem. This is how you win an election. You pump up the patriotism in an optimistic light. You don't do the defeatism of Mark Carney talking about how those big, nasty Americans are going to destroy our country. Our home and native land, true Cajun love, in thy son's command. That's it. Yeah, and it just keeps going. Just absolutely a massive turnout for Poilievre on, again, what are short notice rallies. They announce these things like 2 days before, and oftentimes the day before they have to change venues because there's just not enough room for everybody in the previous venue. Whereas Carney, he's filling up at a conference center that's like the size of what Poilievre did for the Canada First rally. And that rally was more about the media coming out of it. It was about Poilievre being able to speak to the camera at a podium, announcing kind of the new platform direction of the Conservative Party. That was not about bringing in as many people as humanly possible. Poilievre can now attempt to try and fill up as big a venue as he can possibly find. If he did that thing in Calgary, that's when I would say he can truly probably get to about 15,000 people. Poilievre was even asked about his rally yesterday, and I thought this was a funny clip where the media started finally talking about how significant this is, because it is significant. And also they can't ignore it at the same time that Carney and the Liberals are trying to celebrate bringing in literally a fifth of what Poilievre was able to bring in.
How did you like our rally last night?
Well, I wanted to ask about your rallies.
Thank you.
And whether size matters. I actually want to know about your rallies and what your strategy is and who you're talking to. Because you bring up things like woke mob, Century Initiative, bulldozing the CBC. I'm exaggerating, but getting rid of CBC HQ. At what point are you just talking in an echo chamber to people who already feel that way? Or do you feel like these are broadening the tent of support to Liberal or undecided voters to get them on board with your campaign?
Okay, just saying, you can't really call it an echo chamber in Canadian politics if you can bring out 10,000 people. Let's even just say it was 5,000. That's not a small echo chamber. Carney is the one with a very small echo chamber. People who just want to talk about how bad Trump is, and they actually don't care about any of the political issues. It is what I would call political hobbyists, retired political hobbyists who want Canadian politics to actually be about American politics, because American politics are exciting. And isn't it so much more exciting when the election is about us fighting back against Donald Trump rather than talking about housing and immigration and government spending and taxes and all that stuff. Also, I like how they can go from he has massive amounts of people at his rallies to does this indicate you actually don't have a lot of support? Like, my goodness.
I think it's pretty broad. I think how many people do you think we had last night?
Thousands.
Well, that's pretty obvious. I think you can be more precise than that.
I don't. I mean, the party said 10,000 registered. There's reports of 15. I really can't say.
One last question: when was the last time we had a rally that big in Canada?
I don't know. I've never been to a political rally that big. I don't think.
You know a lot about politics.
Well,
You're a very well-informed person. I know that if there were a bigger rally than that, you would know about it. I think so. But I think it was pretty incredible. Were any of you there? Magic, eh? Wow. Incredible.
No doubt the Liberals are going to try and use Poilievre talking about the rally size to say he's just like Trump. You know what? In this case, I actually want them to try and compare Poilievre to Trump. But usually it's just annoyingly stupid that they do it. But right now, all they're going to do is just draw attention to the fact that Poilievre on short notice can bring 10,000 people into an event center to hear him speak, into a giant, massive warehouse to hear him speak. It's significant. It's obviously significant. And trying to compare him on this front to Trump is just going to indicate, you know, that Poilievre actually has a lot of support. You know that he's able to rally that many people. In like, I know Edmonton federally is pretty conservative, but there's like 3 or 4 ridings in that city that are either NDP or Liberal. It's not like coming into Calgary. And by the way, Carney's rally, which again, they are trying to ballyhoo this thing as like a massive, massive win for the Liberals, how many people they were able to bring in. You got to remember though that this is about as many people as Poilievre was able to bring in Charlottetown, in like Fredericton, places that are not default Liberal ridings. Let's see, like they're even putting out this video, or they're not default Conservative ridings, but the Liberals are putting out this video trying to like demonstrate how big the rallies are. But even then, I will also point out that there is a very particular type of demographic that is showing up to Mark Carney rallies, and it's not going after anyone. In fact, the demographics who watch my videos tend to be in the older age brackets, just simply because if you're older, you tend to care about the news more. But the thing is, with Mark Carney's people, it's all basically CBC viewers. It's older, retired people who are default Liberals because they watch the CBC all day and they just stew over how much they hate Donald Trump. And obviously, you don't have to like Donald Trump. You can disagree with him on stuff. I disagree with him on stuff. But the thing is that I think this is the brick wall that the Liberals are going to be running into soon. That they just kind of appeal to a very specific type of person, and all their soft support might go away. Their soft support might go away after the debate when people realize, oh yeah, he's not really like this big warrior who's fighting back against Trump. He's in fact a boring accountant who's not particularly good at his job. Like, he's been the economic advisor for 5 years under Justin Trudeau, and we're supposed to pretend like any good idea was his idea. The problem is there wasn't any good ideas over the past 5 years. And by the way, do you think that Justin Trudeau, the guy who was not qualified to lick stamps at a post office, was calling shots on the economy? And Chrystia Freeland even up and left her position as finance minister because she wasn't allowed to make decisions over the past 5 years, and she eventually got frustrated. That is indicating the person who was driving the ship for 5 years was just Mark Carney. It was just him. And for some reason, he's allowed to whitewash his record. Now I just want to quickly jump over to the ads that the Liberals and Conservatives are running, because we kind of have almost mirror images of the exact same ads coming from the Liberals and Conservatives right now. So here is the Liberals ad against Pierre Poilievre.
How do you address the concerns of being too closely aligned to a foreign government that is threatening Canada and is destroying its own country right now?
Well, your question is false.
Everything is broken.
Everything is broken.
The left-wing censorship regime.
Their woke censorship ideology.
I like how he said the false thing, as if Poilievre was saying, no, he's not actually destroying his country. By the way, obviously Trump's not actually destroying the U.S. It's such a stupidly hyperbolic question. But but Poilievre here, he was saying that's false, that the liberals, or like he basically goes into how the liberals have weakened our economy and how, like, don't we need to fight back stronger, kind of dumb questions. Like, well, no, we need to, improve our economy domestically.
Defeating the radical left.
Radical, leftist, authoritarian. The Americans' fault. It's our fault. We're stupid.
And, that ad will probably appeal to a certain type of person who really wants to feel like there's a Trump-like figure to fight back against in Canadian politics. Because, again, there's a lot of Canadians who are just so default left that they naturally are just going to side against whoever seems right. And that's an easy hit on Poilievre. But the thing is, I actually think the Conservatives ad is far more effective on this demographic of people who really care about fighting back against Trump. Naturally, there's a lot of conservatives like myself who actually don't mind Trump, especially on domestic policies. I don't always like Trump on foreign policy. I don't like him on trade exactly. But the thing is that the conservatives, oddly enough, even if half their base doesn't mind Trump, they have a much better attack angle on the liberals when it comes to Trump.
Why does Trump want a fourth liberal term?
I think it's easier to deal actually with a liberal.
Because Mark Carney will continue the same liberal policies that have made Canada weak. He'll keep oil in the ground.
Oil reserves, proven reserves, need to stay in the ground.
And he'll keep liberal laws that block mines, pipelines, and energy projects.
We do not plan to repeal Bill 69.
Keeping Canada hostage to the Americans.
It's to our advantage, actually.
Canada can't afford a fourth liberal term.
See, it's like the conservatives are actually watching my show, because this is another version of what I've been indicating that they should be running as an ad. Show Carney speaking or show a position of his and then keep cutting back to Trump saying, yeah, I'd like to negotiate with the liberals instead. I'd rather work with these guys. I want them to run the version where it's that none of it press conference where he keeps fumbling all over himself. That's the one they should run, where he keeps fumbling all over himself, maybe say a couple of his positions, and then cut to Trump saying, yeah, I'd rather negotiate with these guys. Because they're obviously weak and pathetic, and Trump thinks that he can easily out-negotiate a Mark Carney and whoever his international trade person is right now. I think it's like Anita Anand. I don't know. There's for some, like, you can never tell who's really in charge of anything in the Liberal Party because it's such a hierarchical party that it's just whatever the leader says goes, and the ministers might as well just be robots. Anyways, I want to move on now quickly to Stephen Harper at the Poilievre rally, because this is another significant indicator, or not indicator, it's a significant event in the campaign, because there are a lot of Canadians on the center left who actually will shift over based on what Harper thinks. Because so many people are citing, well, Carney used to work for Harper, so I like him. And by having Harper say, no, unequivocally, I like Poilievre better, is going to change some minds. I'll bring up that clip in just a second here. Here we go with that Harper clip. Thank you for Rebel News for getting this up, because obviously I do not have a big team that can go clipping stuff like this for me. But again, this is going to have a big impact. It's not because 10% of voters are going to decide who they're going to vote for based on Stephen Harper. Endorsements usually don't affect races that much. But what this does is it pushes, a good third, more like 0.5% of voters towards conservatives. Every election is about nickel and diming your way into a governmental position, and I think that this is definitely a significant thing, because now Carney's people can't really bring up Harper as much because, well, now he's not on their team.
Friends, I am in a unique position in this federal election. I am the only person who can say that both of the men running to be prime minister once worked for me. And in that regard, my choice, without hesitation, without equivocation, without a shadow of a doubt, is Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah, so great news for Poilievre, and I would say that what this is all indicative of, because I like to kind of jump between polls and real life events, because the polls reflect real life. Not all polls are accurate. I like whenever you say a poll's not accurate, you're like, are you a poll denier? You have to be a poll denier to some extent. All the polls don't agree with each other, so you have to say that poll looks like crap, that one looks okay. And in this case, I tend to like Abacus Data. I think they do a good job. And I've been saying that for literally months, that they've been doing a good job. They actually, for a long time, had the Liberals as the party with more voter enthusiasm. But as of yesterday, they actually have the Conservatives starting to take the lead. Conservative voters, 69% of conservative voters say they have their mind made up of who they're going to vote for. Only 31% say they could change their minds. Liberal voters, 62% have their minds made up, 38% could change their minds. And it gets really bad for the NDP and the Bloc with only 54 and 33% who have their minds made up. This is why the debate is really going to matter. In fact, as weird as it sounds, do you know who the debate is biggest for? Biggest for Jagmeet Singh and Yves-Francois Blanchet. Poilievre and Carney are all, actually more so Poilievre, already has most of his voters firmed up, as you see there. He has 68%. Now he basically needs to cobble together another 20% and he can win. What the debate's going to do is if Jagmeet Singh, as incompetent as the guy is, he can be charismatic sometimes. If he can land a big haymaker on Carney, if he can land a shot on Carney, and if Carney flubs the French debate and Blanchet looks like the stronger person for center-left to left Quebec voters, you could see a lot of that soft liberal support end up just going away. I would actually say it's about 40%, 45% of liberal supporters who actually could move away if there's just a really bad performance for Carney. Not all of them are going to move away, obviously, but 40% that each of those people have, a 50-50, maybe even just a 20% chance of saying, yeah, I guess I don't trust Carney if he just can't stand up on a debate stage on his own 2 feet and battle back against these other leaders. But anyways, so that should be it for me in this video, guys. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, do all that great stuff. Make sure to keep up with my coverage. I'm trying to put out a couple of videos a day, keeping up with the campaign. So, do all that good stuff. If you want to sign up actually on my website, I actually have that linked in the description below and pinned to the top comments in every video. I do it basically so that in the next round of elections, I can give good recommendations in every riding for nomination candidates for the Conservatives, as well as in leadership elections. So if there's suddenly a leadership election in Saskatchewan, I can take everyone who I know lives in Saskatchewan on my list and give you good indications of the best Conservative candidate I at least would get behind. But anyways, so check out all that stuff, and I'll see you guys later.